on the January 2026 What's Neat.
We continue on with layout construction, building that diorama 11 feet long that's going across my window.
The What's Neat Show is sponsored by Lombard Hobbies, your value hobby shop for over 40 years of modelers helping modelers. Big inventory, value pricing, fast shipping, and great service. And by Broadway Limited Imports, the cutting-edge leader in model trains. Check out their website at broadway-limited.com. And by Bachmann Trains. Now that's the way to run a railroad. Check out their website at bachmanntrains.com. And thank you for helping us support the best hobby in the world.
This is What's Neat for January 2026. Can you believe it? I'm your host, Ken Patterson, and this month we've got a great show in that we continue on with layout construction, building that beautiful, actually perfectly laid out, well-designed diorama, 11 feet long, that's going across my window, that continues on with the rest of the layout, which at some point this summer we're going to completely rebuild the main part of the layout going right up to the center of the room, kind of like I've discussed on previous podcasts. Also this month I've got some great models I want to share with you. This first model I'm going to talk about, we've been waiting for over a year, and that is, I've got this beautiful Via Rail train set here from Bachmann Industries. This was announced almost 2 years ago. I got so excited when I saw the ad photos on this, because the color scheme of the Siemens Charger with these beautiful venture cars, I thought it looked so great with the yellow and the gray paint scheme on these models. Well, now Bachmann has finally been able to produce, I want to call it the tail end car. But what this is a power car that goes on the end of the consist. And I think in future years, you're going to see Amtrak using these cars, these Siemens Venture cab cars, an awfully lot, and a lot more trains than just this first one that we are seeing it being used in. These have been used already in California on some of the high-speed trains that they're building out there using the same Siemens cars. And I think in the next 10 years, we're going to find these cars on a lot of Amtrak consists, because it simply makes it easier to turn the train around in situations where they actually have to move the engine to the other end of the train. Or in electric service, they'll put either a combination power unit of electric and diesel power, or they have the Siemens Charger on the front that's diesel, and on the back they've actually got a cab car that is got catenaries on it, pantographs and what have you, so they can power up the whole consist in areas of the United States where they go from electric to diesel power. So in situations like that, instead of switching out the power, you simply switch a switch on the consist and you can run your entire train backwards. So this is the future coming, and this model from Bachmann Industries is simply amazing in that it's got full sound in it, it's got full lighting package in it, it's got every detail that the prototype would have with regards to sound and lighting. And when this thing is running, I've shown runbys of this train running in the past on my layout. It looks absolutely fabulous. I just love this consist, and it's going to look even better now with a tail end car, so that when you build your consist, the way the prototype is, you'll have the tail end car, you have the Siemens Charger, and you'll have the 4 cars in the middle. Wouldn't it be neat to make the train just a little longer so it lasts longer when it passes by? I know that ain't prototype. Also this month, I got some great engines from Broadway Limited. If you'll remember, we shared this power before in the past on the show, sometime back in March of 2025, when we showed this SD70 Ace pulling a train over 157 feet long around my layout. I think we might have put 2 units on it. But these models weigh a ton. They're built of diecast. They've still got all the super details on them that we expect in HO scale. But this first one is powered by the people from Union Pacific. And the second one I've got is 4149 Kansas City Southern, KCS, and a very beautiful paint scheme. Again, Paragon 4 sound, full lighting package, everything that you've come to expect from models these days. And God, they sure are beautiful now, aren't they? So check it out at your retailer. Of course, Lombard Hobbies helps us sponsor the show. Thank you very much to the folks up in Chicago that do that for us. This is the best hobby in the world, and I met some of the best people in this hobby. So with that, let's continue on with the rest of this January 2026 What's Neat. For this segment of What's Neat, welcome to January 2026, I know. We are going to continue with layout construction. I left off the last time on this segment across this 11-foot, 4-inch area of layout, where I want to build it so it's smooth trackage all the way through, very gentle curve through the diorama, as opposed to the way it used to be when I had narrow gauge, dual gauge track on this. So with the improvements, I've added essentially 2 sidings, 1 main line, and then 1 stub track. All of this track needs to be glued down. I'm taking turnouts that I've used on previous dioramas, and I'm repairing them and making sure everything's soldered together and everything works just right. As long as you take care of turnouts, they can be used forever. Also, as you may remember, I ripped out the bridge here, because this Highway M bridge, which is just south of St. Louis, I built this bridge with a bit of a curve in it so that it would match up with the adjoining module at the time that this layout was built. I'm going to straighten out this bridge and make it more of an effective, smooth transition into this module. One other thing I'm thinking about doing, for example, this turnout here, I love long turnouts, smooth, high-speed turnouts into a siding. In order to do that here, I'm thinking I may mount these turnouts on a piece of plywood and then be able to work them down into the foam so that the rail height matches throughout each seam. So I'm going to do that on both of the main turnouts coming into the section. That way the ground throw, the turnout, everything is attached to the plywood, and if I feel like I may want to curve the turnout a little bit, the plywood would act as a subsurface to keep the curve in check if I spike it down. So with that, we've also got to put sides on this diorama. We've got to put blocks in it. We got to make block panels for it. Eventually, the top coating is going to be scenery, probably fake fur, dirt, some smooth cement road spaces to put trains on and off the track. This scene isn't being modeled off of anything prototypical, although I'm using prototypical standards for most of it. But it's going to be an effective area where we've always put trains on the track here. People that come by and visit, people that want to run their trains. This tends to be the spot where they migrate to test things. So I'm actually designing this just for that purpose. So with that, we're going to continue on with track work, building bridges, and let's just get a train running as quickly as we can, and then we'll figure out what kind of scenery to put on the scene next. So ready, set, go. Let's get started. I'm starting on the ends with the turnouts, and the first turnout that I'm working on is the one here over at the Kimmswick diorama, where I want to put a number 8 into this area. And the original trackage that went through here had just a little bit of a curve to it, bringing it into the next module. Well, this turnout is very straight, and I want to bend the turnout. Now, I've already gone through this turnout and cleaned up the ends, cleaned up the top. This is an old turnout from a Wathers switchyard ad from a long time ago. I also put jumper wires in, and I cut a notch right here like I always show you on videos so that my frog will stay live with the points, but I won't get a short circuit when I join up this turnout with a siding on the other end. So let me take you around here. Bear with me as we go to my desk, because I want to show you what I'm doing to this turnout down here. In order to bend this turnout, I am going to notch it out on the underneath side with a Dremel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the brackets that are just underneath the rail that hold the ties separate from each other. And I'm just going to put notches in those right now with a Dremel. And then I will be able to bend the end of this turnout. just enough to give me and all I'm doing is just cutting out the little pieces of plastic right here.
95% rejected.
Alright, I've notched them all out except for the ends right here, the last 3 ties. And now what that allows me to do is, as you can see here, I can just bend this turnout a little bit. In fact, what I'm going to do, no, that's perfect. I've got just enough flex that I need in this to do what I want on the end over there. So I'm going to set this up over there and start working on the rest of the turnouts and see if we can't get this track laid pretty quick. So I'm really starting on this end, coming off of the Kimmswick Bridge. And just like I described earlier, I took a piece of 1/4-inch oak plywood and I mounted this turnout, this number 8 old Shinohara turnout, right to the wood using contact adhesive. This stuff is fantastic and it still remains a little flexible. The reason I put it in the wood like this was so I could spike the switch in place, and then I did the curve on the end here on the last 3 inches. Just started the curve coming off, so it'll curve just like it used to off of Kimmswick here originally. And the turnout did that just beautifully. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my hot foam cutter and I'm going to cut into the foam here the same depth as the piece of plywood, maybe just a little bit more to give room for some glue. And then I'm going to put this into position. Rail heights exactly matching these tracks and this, and glue it into place and put some weights on it. I've also got power feed wires here for this module coming through right here. I may probably just still use those. I'll figure out which is which, positive and negative, and then solder those to each of the outside rails on this turnout. The last thing I want to point out is I took a caboose ground throw, and in this case I'm using an N scale one because it does give me enough tension where I can throw the switch. So this is essentially a self-contained unit. I like the way it's come out. It's got a little curve in it, just like what I want. So I'm going to put this in place now, and then I'll be able to start the arc and the radius on the first piece of microengineering track and let it run all the way to the other side where it's going to match up with the bridge. I do want to point out, it's amazing to me all the various little tools that you need to do almost any project like this that I kind of overlook. For example, the very, very small drill bit, I think this is a number, probably a number 80 or 72 drill bit that I've got fit into a micro mark, little chuck that I bought that fits perfectly in the Milwaukee Dremel, and I can slow it down in case I'm drilling through plastic and I don't want it to burn through. Another thing again is this weldwood contact cement for doing the laminate on kitchen cabinets and what have you. Fantastic glue. I've glued rail to the track with with contact adhesive, and it hasn't come up. There have been parts of the layout where I've never spiked it, but the rail stayed in place for over 5 years, never came up. Another small thing to remember, spikes. Microengineering sells HO scale spikes and G scale spikes. I always keep them in the same container, along with my track gauges and my N scale rail joiners. Why do I use N scale? Because it joins code 70 and 83 track, those sizes of rail, which is all I primarily use, and N scale joiners are not as obtuse as the HO scale joiners. So, and the other tool here, the hot foam cutter. I probably haven't used this in a year, but when you need it, it's one of those tools that you just have to have on hand. So just kind of something to think about. So let me get this carved out, get this switch in place. I want to see some trains running. Using the hot foam cutter here,
cutting through the residual liquid nail that previously attached the track. It's best to ventilate when you're doing something like this, but it eats through the foam beautifully. And then I'm using this piece of 1/4-inch plywood as a depth gauge, so I can see that I'm getting it deep enough where the board is going to be level with the foam, as you can see right here. So I'm working my way. That's perfect right there. If it's too deep, I'll fill the underneath side when I glue this in place with the orange great stuff foam, which is what I'll use to glue this plywood in place. And then I'll put a straight edge level on it from here to the rail here to make sure that the rails are just touching the bottom side of the level. When the foam expands, it'll be pushed up into the level, ensuring perfect level turnout in this place that we're creating right here. I know that sounds crazy, but believe it or not, it works perfect. It just does. So I'm going to keep cutting this until I get everything traced, where I've traced with a magic marker where the piece of plywood's going to inlay into this piece of foam. Okay, I've carved out the area where the 1/4-inch plywood and the number 8 turnout's going to fit perfectly. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and glue this right now and show you the process. It's going to go very quick. And when the foam stuff here sets up, it'll be cured in about an hour. I am not going to use very much material at all, but this will expand. And it will push the plywood up when it expands. It's going to come out the edges. It's going to make a mess, but it's easy to clean up. It's easy to cut. That should be ample. Now I've got plenty of work time. Connect my rail joiners, which have been wire brushed and cleaned. Everything's been cleaned, so when it solders together. I've got my track on this end lined up. Looks like there's a little imperfection in the foam right here, which I'm not that concerned with right now. I'm going to slide this rail joiners onto the adjoining rails. The most important dimension on our layout, it doesn't matter if you use code 70, code 80, or you mix the two together. The most important dimension is the rail height. This is exactly how I set a bridge into place. Now watch what happens. While the glue is setting up, I'm going to put this level onto the 2 rails on the bridge and onto the rails on the diorama here next to it. And then I'm going to put a 15-pound weight on top of that. And that should be enough for this straight edge to be pushed down directly. I want to make sure this is balanced. That looks really good right there. So now I'm going to let our straight edge set up. And that's going to dictate where the top of the rail is touching the level all the way across. As this piece of wood gets pushed up by the orange foam, it's going to be perfectly level height all the way across the top and line up beautifully into the next diorama here. So working all night overnight, the turnout here on the piece of plywood came out absolutely fabulous and lines up perfectly height-wise with everything, the new module. I've got the track laid. I'm pretty sure where I'm going to keep it. So I'm going to take a Sharpie and kind of trace out where the turnouts are and where the various pieces intersect, just to give me a guidance as I now will form the final curve on the main line, start putting on end scale rail joiners and getting this track essentially connected. First the main line, then the outside track,
and probably the siding. I still need to repair a couple of turnouts here that have been worn over the years and need some work. The bridge will be the last part that I finish. And what I've got going on here so far is I've put the pier back about where it's going to be. The bridge is completely straight. I'm using the level to ensure that. Also, when it comes time to glue all the piers into place, I need to shim out the bridge girders. I've got some railroad ties temporarily stuck in there just to give me a little bit of guidance on height. The key is to have the top of the rail touching the level all the way across to ensure that the bridge is straight, level, and just smooth for the models to operate on. So, yeah, a little bit more work to do. This deck here will have to be shimmed out so the track will touch the top of the level. And the last thing to note is I've taken off the ties on this section of track, on this piece of track that is right on the girders, so I can get the height. And then I'm going to glue that down with contact adhesive, and then eventually come back and spike them, and then putting guardrails on the inside. So it's going to look prototypically accurate. This turnout here, I want to talk about that. I may or may not mount this on a piece of plywood. I do know it works, but I'm going to have to cut the turnout here where the modules join, which isn't an issue, but I'm not sure if I'm going to cut out a section of turnout and then slide the rail joiners to replace it. I may do that actually, rather than just use pieces of rail. I'm not sure about that part yet, but I mean, it's super simple now. Just get the track where it belongs, get the rails soldered together so it doesn't move around. Come up here on the bridge, lay the track, and then we're going to glue everything down and then start thinking about the topography for the siding, this road on the outside that I see, and how am I going to join the topography of the adjoining module. So a lot of different things to figure out, but let's just keep on going. Let's try to wrap this project up. Starting to work further on the progression of laying track on this diorama, I've been able to lay about 3 or 4 sections of the main line and the siding that's going to be closest to the window. But it's come to my attention that before I can continue on and lay these turnouts, I need to fix the bridge situation, the bridge that I tore out. This is not how you build a bridge, okay? As you've seen me build many bridges in the past on What's Neat, I always build the bridge as an entire structure. I attach it to a level, and then I drop it into place, letting the level rest on the tracks that approach the bridge. That allows the bridge to hang so you can put the glue underneath the foundation, set it all up, come back in 3 hours and have a perfect situation. This is different in that I ripped out an existing bridge and I'm now piecemealing it back together. So the most important dimension in this entire project, nevertheless, about aesthetics, is that the rail height all the way across the entire scene stays perfectly level. And I'm using the straight edge of the level to do just that. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking evergreen styrene and I'm shimming out. As you can see, there's styrene in various parts of the bridge. And I'm also shimming out where the track rests inside of the ballasted deck bridge section. And in fact, I've shimmed out a little bit of the area leading up into the curve. Now, this would be the time to put super elevation into the track work if you're so going to do that to your layout. In this case, I'm not. But what you would do would use 40,000 styrene pieces like this underneath the outside tie. And that creates your super elevation so your trains lean into the curve. All I want to do is brace things out, shim everything out, and make sure that the top of this rail is so smooth all the way across. As I work my way towards the last abutment, you can see where the old liquid nail that was glued right there behind the plexiglass actually ate a cave into the foam. So I'm probably going to take some Great Stuff Foam Pro, just let it sit there and expand and then carve it out so I can take the bridge abutment pieces that I do have and then put them back into place under the last 30-foot girder. The last thing to do is to deal with this old turnout. I've got to fix some solder joints in it and I think put jumper wires on this one and notch out the frog. If I'm going to go to all of that, I'm thinking about doing what I did on the other side that we did 15 minutes earlier in this video, where we put plywood underneath the turnout. It gives you a nice substantial base. I really like that. Plus, again, this turnout's going to have to be cut midway through so this module can come out. So I'm going to work on getting this bridge into place with the level, get everything shimmed out and glued. The rails will then be glued on top. I can spike them anytime down the future, that's irrelevant. And get this turnout in some sort of a base. And then we can finish laying track and have a train running in, no time. So that's where we're at on this. It just keeps going. Little bitty details, little bitty measurements, all of those things that if you overlook, it's going to hamper the performance of your locomotive. What would you rather have? Great track and expensive models running on great track, or really poor track with great models that don't run? This is where we avoid that by doing these little bitty procedures step by step. We're getting through it. Let's see what happens next. I filled the area with the Great Foam Pro adhesive right here. So I've got to carve that down as this is now expanded. It's been sitting here for 30 minutes and it's solid. It's the blob. Here I've got the bridge abutment, which is something that I built many years ago out of plexiglass. So I got to spray it again with primer paint. And once that's carved out, I'll put it right into place. And the 30-foot girder sets right atop of that. Now, the turnout. I've just created a piece of plywood for the turnout to mount, and it doesn't extend into the other module. So I'll take the hop foam cutter and I'm going to cut out a nice 1/4 inch deep groove, place this wood in it. I'll fill it up with the orange Foam Pro. I'll put the level on top of it like you've seen me do on the previous turnout. And that should all set up level so I can put the pieces of the bridge back together. And we should be able to get things running pretty quick after that. So let's just keep trugging away hour after hour. And just like that, after working all night, at least probably 8 hours, I've got into the bridge itself. All of the pieces are now sanded, filed. I've shimmed the bridge so it's completely level all the way across. In fact, I've got to paint the shims. You can see how I've shimmed it out with styrene. I will put a guardrail on it, but at this point, everything is just setting in place. This pier's just sitting there. The girders fit so well that they're just sitting on top with the rails just laying on top of that. I've got a couple micro-engineering track gauges holding the rails in place. So what I'm going to do is, after I catch some sleep, I'm going to glue all of this together real time and set it all up. It is absolutely straight. I took the curve out of the bridge, which is what I wanted to do. But on the same hand, that first number 10 turnout right there, I bent a little bit of a curve into that. Just ever so slightly, but it's just enough that it's coming off of the main line into the other module just perfectly. I love that. So what I'm going to do, and the other great thing I love with this foam, is just making this plywood base for the turnout. That way my ground throw's already built onto the plywood. So just like as I did on the other end, I'm going to take the orange Foam Pro, put it underneath there, and you're going to watch me do all of this, and then I'll put the level across the top of all of it and let the glue set up. And then once that's done, then I can start spiking the rail and put the guardrails on and weather up this part of the area of the layout, because none of this track has been painted. So I'll mask it and weather it with Rust-Oleum camouflage brown paint. So far so good. Everything is just, it's just as smooth and perfect as can be. Also, during the night, I completely undid the base of this bridge, and I did the same thing. I shimmed it out with styrene, because I noticed that during one of the runbys that I made for the podcast opening credits, one of the engines kind of dipped and tucked as it went through the bridge. So evidently the bridge itself had settled ever so slightly of, probably 40 thousandths of an inch, but it was enough to make a notable dip, figuring that that dip is half the height of a piece of rail, so it would be very easy to see if it was abrupt. So all the track work now in this area is going to be super smooth and just probably operate flawlessly without any defects. So with that, when I pick it up, it's going to be super easy. We're going to glue this bridge into place, and once this is down, it won't take any time, not even an hour, to lay out the rest of these tracks and get everything soldered into place. And then we're going to have an operating layout again. So look forward to that, and then we're going to scenic and put in blocks and power up this whole module. You really can't see much here with that backlight. But anyway, so let's continue on and get this project finished. Okay, I've made some great progress, I want to say in the last 12 hours, and let me show you where I'm at on this now. All of the pieces of the bridge itself are in fact pre-built. Right now, let me take this off of this jib crane to show you up close. First of all, coming into the curve here, I had that rubber foam roadbed, and I decided to peel that out. It was not in good shape. I did not trust that as a base, because it's better than 14 years old. So I took that out and I've replaced it. I used some orange foam pro, some of that expandable glue, and I put down a piece of 1/4-inch plywood that was cut to the shape exactly of the area. And upon that being glued into place, I painted it with some Rust-Oleum paint. Also, the shims that I built on the deck here are also painted. So I have a very smooth roadbed. If I wanted to put super elevation into it, I would add 40,000 styrene to the outside rail. But I'm not going to do that on this project. The bridge itself, I've got this pier that is not glued in place yet, but I know where it goes. I painted the deck on the bridge, and upon removing the masking tape, I was delighted with the way that came out. I actually filed the bridge pieces and glued them together. As you can see here, everything fits tight. All of the metal shims I've painted with Rust-Oleum roof brown paint. That's on top of the piers. And these girders fit right into place perfectly. So this thing will just fall together, and then all the little pieces will be glued into place with probably Walther's glue, because it's nice flexible glue. I repainted the rail and the track that goes into place. Because it's micro-engineering track, it holds its shape, which has been a savings for frustration on this project. It makes everything easier. So all I've got to do is put this into place. Okay, so I also, when I painted the track, did not paint where the rail joiners are going to go, which is always good. So that slides into place. The track itself, the rails again are just hanging, and they'll go right on top of the deck. I've got the rail joiners here, and I also did not paint where the rail joiners go. And another additional tip, I took a Dremel and I gouged out the wood where the rail joiner is going to lay into the wood, so it won't create a little rise right there. The other turnout is mounted onto a piece of plywood. All I have to simply do is glue that into place with the foam pro orange glue, and then I'll put a level on top of that, just like so. And that'll hold that in place so that the rail height will match up to the new module and match up to the bridge, filling any gap that may be underneath. Same way with the bridge. When I built this bridge, I built it with a level all the way across the top, as you've seen me do. So now I'm simply going to take these pieces, glue the track in place. I'm going to show you B-rail of this. I'm literally going to take contact cement. I love this stuff for gluing down rail, because you can glue down rail and not even spike it. It'll stay in place. So I'm going to glue the rail into place on the bridge. And then I'll use these micro-engineering track gauges
to hold it in place as the glue sets up. Once the bridge is set, everything is glued into place. That's when I'll finalize, I'm sorry about that. That's where I'll finalize mounting the switch. Once this turnout is in place, I'm going to have my straight track that I want coming right through that bridge. It's not going to be curved anymore. I did build a little bit of curve into this turnout. And I've still got one more turnout here where I need to do some repairs to it. For example, the ties are coming loose here, so I'll glue that into place. Then once this turnout is in place, it's a no-brainer to lay the few pieces of track, form the exact curve that I want coming off that other module, and then we'll pick up this video and hopefully be very close to running a train. I will go ahead and solder all of this rail together, make sure the trains run perfect over it before gluing the track in place. I'm also entertaining the thought of actually super elevating the curves back here. May do it, may not do it, depending upon how it's going to work with that turnout that's in the curve. But right now, let's just get the bridge finally put into place, glued into place like I've explained, and we'll move on to laying track and see if we can't have a train running before midnight tonight. And right now it's 6. I'm gluing in the last turnout on this end of the bridge. Now the turnout's mounted on that piece of plywood. I'm using this great stuff foam. I've already got this area shimmed out, so the plywood will go in perfectly. I've just got to connect the rail joiners with the glue wet, which may be a trick. I've got one. And I've got 2. I've got the track gauges in place. Okay, I've got a good solid fit. And I'm laying the turnout now into the foam, which will expand. And fill underneath. I'll tell you what, this is looking really good. Hold on. Yeah. This part has got to be perfect. I'm going to eyeball this because your eyes don't lie. No pressure. Now this is looking decent. There isn't anything else I can do on this. It's absolutely fabulous. You've got work time with this foam, which I really appreciate right now. This part's taking time, a lot longer than I thought. We spent, what, 8 days, 7 days building this. Let's get it right. Let's not ruin it in 5 minutes of being in a hurry. How crazy is that? This is beautiful. This is going to look fantastic. I don't see any problems with it. That's beautiful. So the turnout will now get a weight and a level put on top of it so that as things expand,
Everything will be rail height. Perfect. I've got track on both sides. Putting the level on it. Everything looks absolutely fantastic. And let's put a 15-pound weight on top of that and let the Orange Foam Pro sit up for 30 minutes. And then I'll proceed with gluing down the track. And then, boom, we're gonna go up there and get this finished. So, rock and roll. So while the turnout's setting up, I went ahead and put some more foam to fill the gaps, and then I'll finish the scenery around the piers. I've got a 40-pound, a 30-pound, and a 15-pound weight on everything right now. Just making sure that everything was flat and level, and it is. There was originally a high point, I believe, ever so small in this area, and I'm expecting that was the fact that I put the glue underneath the pier, which may have been just enough to throw it off. But right now, this should be one of the smoothest bridges. As soon as this sets up, we're going to glue down the track and glue down the rail next. Okay, with our turnout securely in place and the bridge glued down into place, the very last thing to do is to glue down this track that comes from the old trackage onto the new trackage, onto this piece of plywood. And to glue it to the wood and to this deck part of the bridge, the ballasted deck part. I'm going to use this damp ultra clear. You've seen me use this before. It's flexible and glue will stick to it, so that means I can ballast. Plus it gives me work time. I like that. We're not going to need work time here. I'm going to apply it with a painter's knife. For the rails that go across the top here of the deck, I'm going to use the Weldwood contact cement, because again, that'll glue the rail in place. Then I'll probably come back at some point and drill out holes and put in spikes, glue in HO scale microengineering spikes with some super glue. So what I want to do now is let you see real time as I do this. It's really important to get this right, and when I put the contact cement on, I don't want to make a mess because it's really easy to do. I've already got the rail joiners apart and ready to slide back into place. I've got my track gauges right here, ready to go. I'm going to lift up the track. I love the fact this track holds its shape. Slide out the rail joiners and gently set this on top of the bushes. We're going to redo all these bushes too. That's a lot of work. Coming up, I'm going to put a bead of glue down. I haven't used this since the last layout construction segment, but it looks like it's still good. I'm just going to put down a bead of glue here and smooth it with the knife. It dries clear. And that's step one. I'm going to smooth it with this painter's knife now. This is going to be perfect. Oh my gosh, this is going to be absolutely beautiful because it's going to go all the way across and catch both sides of the ties. This will be good. Now, I'm going to put this knife on a piece of wood where it's safe. Here comes the next part, and that is the contact cement, potentially the messy part. And I've got a lot of wires here to redo too, a lot of telephone wires. Okay,
You can use a smaller brush with this, but I've done this before. So I'm just going to use the material right out of the bottle. And can you see what I'm doing here? I'm just going to blot it. I'm blotting it. Look at that. Just touch and pull away. I don't want to smear it. I don't want to get it on top of the railhead if I can help it. Oh, this is wonderful. Going all the way up. My rail joiners are holding. Another thing on building this bridge, I made sure that I had small gaps in the event of expansion and contraction. And I'll have to run jumper wires around those gaps. So, okay, I've touched all of this now with the brush. It all has contact cement on it. You know, you use this for building kitchen cabinets and putting the laminate on the cabinet. When you put this on both sides, you put this on the cabinet and you put this on the wood, let it dry. You push the pieces together. And that's how you make a smooth Formica countertop or plywood sides. Okay, so, all right, I am going to put this on ever so carefully now. I'm going to stand up on something so I can see it looking straight down. Because where these rails touch is where this glue is going to go, and I want to try to get this right the first time. Now I've got to latch these rail joiners on the end. And that's pretty easy. That's beautiful. Coming right down the deck. And I've just dropped the rails in place. Now I am immediately going to slide the rail joiners into place and put these track gauges on. Then I'm going to quickly eyeball this to make sure there's no unwanted. I just kicked the camera. I'm going to move you over a little bit here, get you closer. Putting on the gauge. And now I'm going to slide my rail joiners onto the turnout that's already glued. And yes, I did carve gaps into, I carved a little notched out space for the rail joiner to fit on top of the deck under the rail. Okay, the gamers upstairs are gaming. And here's the last rail joiner. So now I need to eyeball this and just check one more time to make sure that we are where we want to be here. Oh, and I think that looks awfully nice. Hold on. I'm pushing it over ever so slightly. Now I'm going to pull those gauges off. The rail's not going to move now. I'm probably going to put weights on top of these gauges, but I want to pull them off and eyeball it one more time. It's going to look really good with guardrails in the middle. And I don't like it. I'm going to slide it over. I do not like the position. I know it seems like it takes a long time, but I want to get this right so bad. Normally I would have already had the bridge completely built and drop it in a position attached to a level. The way we rebuilt this bridge is like the prototype, piece by piece. I do have a little work time with this material, which is a blessing, especially right now.
I want this just right. Come on, baby. There you go. Let me pull these off and look at it. I think this is just beautiful. I would say that's done. So I'm going to put these track gauges back into place, put some weights on them, and just let it sit up for about 20 minutes. And I'll put a couple weights on the track too, to make sure everything's going in smooth here. But this is done. We'll clean the rail head and start laying track that way, and it'll look beautiful again with some guardrails in the middle here. So after many days of working on the new bridge and this new area in front of the window here, I've gotten to the point where I very methodically and carefully bent the track and created what is a very smooth main line coming off of the Kimmswick diorama. And then I also glued down the trackage on the second track closest to the window. So I've got two lines now glued down in place. All the turnouts are in operational condition. The bridge is as smooth as I can make it. We've still got to put on guardrails and do a lot of work to that area of the layout with regards to scenery, ballasting, fixing those telephone wires. And I really want to make all the trees on this layout a fall type of a color, which, you know, that's another project. So at this point, I would like very much to test a train across this scene. I've got a couple of big boys from Broadway Limited here ready to roll. So let's see if all of this work paid off with regards to a smooth run through this scene right here, because that's what I'm really after. Nice. So we're on the first turnout. I'm going to put this camera down so I can operate this. All of that curve is very smooth coming off that diorama. And it's going across that Walther's turnout. Now there's no blocks in this yet. We've got constant power through the whole scene. Smooth. Very, very quiet too compared to all the turnouts that were in this area previously. Now let's see how this goes across this bridge. I don't want to see any dipping. I want to see a very smooth, level train. I love it when a plan comes together. This is awesome. So foolproof track so far. I'm really happy with this. A lot of work to do still. And that's where she comes onto the old layout again. So really happy with this so far. I've got two main lines glued down and I can't put any more trackage down because I want to change the topography and have the siding track here dip down probably a good 3 feet lower than the main line. So I'm going to use a router and groove it out so I know my dimensions. I'm also entertaining thoughts of putting two tracks here to park some locomotives on and joining the scenery on both ends. I'd love to have a road that would come up on this side of the module and on the other side of the module. So a lot of neat stuff coming up. A lot of work to do still on this diorama, but this is going to conclude this What's Neat video, and we will continue this project as time goes along for further What's Neat videos. So with that said, this is the best hobby in the world. Thank you very much for watching, And let's see what happens next in future What's Neats.
All of the products seen on this episode of What's Neat are available from Lombard Hobbies in Lombard, Illinois, or order online at lombardhobby.com. Broadway Limited Imports, the cutting-edge leader in model trains. Check out their website at broadway-limited.com. Bachmann Trains. Now that's the way to run a railroad. Check out their website at bachmanntrains.com.